Tuesday morning began as usual for Mary Wilson. At 5:30 a.m., the alarm clock rang in their small house on Park Street. The house, built in the 1960s, was in need of repairs, but there was neither time nor money for that. Tom had left on a trip again on Sunday, leaving Mary with 10-year-old Jacob and 7-year-old Emma. "Mommy, my tummy hurts," Emma complained, as Mary tried to get the children ready for school. It was the third time that week. Mary knew her daughter was faking it. She just missed her father and wanted to stay home. "Emma, sweetie, Daddy will be home soon. Now you need to go to school," Mary explained patiently, buttoning her daughter's cardigan. In the hallway mirror, she saw her reflection, the tired face of a 35-year-old woman who looked older than her age. Dark circles under her eyes, her hair pulled back into a messy bun, wearing a cheap supermarket uniform. After dropping the kids off at school, Mary drove to work at Southern Foods. The supermarket was located in a shopping center on Hardy Street, one of Hattiesburg's main thoroughfares. Manager Roger was already waiting for her at the employee entrance. "Mary, it's going to be a busy day today. The food truck is late and we have inventory," he said, without even saying hello. Roger never said hello first. Mary nodded and walked to her cash register, number 3. For 8 hours, she would scan items, smile at customers, and answer the same questions about discounts. She earned $11 an hour for this work, barely enough to pay her rent, buy food, and pay for her children's school supplies. At the same time, 15 minutes east, Pierce Carter was opening his auto repair shop, Carter's Garage. The garage was located in an industrial area between railroad tracks and a small warehouse complex. Pierce had inherited the business from his father 5 years ago and had been slowly rebuilding its reputation ever since. At 42, Pierce was a man who knew his way around a car but didn't know his way around people. His divorce from Linda 2 years ago had been for that very reason. He spent more time with his cars than with his wife. Now he lived alone in a small house next to the garage, surrounded by spare parts and tools. "Good morning, Pierce," said Marcus, his only regular employee, a young mechanic who helped with simpler repairs. "Morning," replied Pierce, already studying the day's list of orders. 3 cars for diagnostics, an engine replacement on an old Ford, and a routine inspection. There was plenty of work to do. Around noon, a woman in a medical uniform walked into the auto shop. Pierce looked up from the hood he was working on and saw an attractive brunette in her 30s. "Excuse me, are you Pierce Carter?" she asked. Her voice was soft with a slight southern accent. "Yes, that's me. How can I help you?" "Help. My name is Sarah Wilson. I'm a nurse at Hattiesburg Medical Center. I'm having a problem with my car. It makes a strange noise when I turn the steering wheel." Pierce wiped his hands on his overalls and stepped closer. Sarah was a beautiful woman. That much was obvious. Dark hair, green eyes, slim figure. But Pierce had learned to be cautious with women after his divorce. "What kind of car is it?" he asked, businesslike. "Honda Civic, 2018. I bought it a year ago, but lately the noise has been getting louder." They went outside to where the silver Honda was parked. Pierce asked Sarah to start the engine and turn the steering wheel. After a few seconds, he identified the problem. "The power steering pump. It needs to be replaced. It's not critical, but it's better to do it quickly before it breaks down completely." "How much will it cost?" Sarah looked worried. "The part plus labor will be about $300. I can do it tomorrow morning if you leave the car overnight." Sarah thought for a moment. "Okay, but I need to get home somehow. I live on the other side of town." "I can give you a ride," Pierce offered, surprised at his own words. He didn't usually offer such services to customers. "That's very kind of you, but I don't want to be a bother." "No bother at all. My workday is almost over." In Pierce's car, they drove through the city, and Sarah told him about her job at the hospital. She worked in the emergency room and often dealt with difficult cases. "That must be emotionally draining," Pierce remarked. "Sometimes, but I'm used to it. Besides, I have a supportive family. My sister Mary lives nearby." She has 2 children and a husband who is a truck driver. I see, Pierce said, focusing on the road. He didn't want to get into personal topics. When they pulled up to Sarah's house, a small rented house in a middle-class neighborhood, she turned to him. Thanks for your help, Pierce. See you tomorrow. Goodbye, Sarah. Pierce drove home, thinking about what a pleasant change it had been. Usually, his customers were middle-aged men with problematic trucks or elderly people with ancient sedans. Sarah was different. That evening, Mary picked up the children from school and drove them home. Jacob immediately turned on the TV and sat down in front of the screen while Emma clung to her mother's leg. Mom, when is Dad coming home? The girl asked. On Friday, sweetie. Only 3 more days to go. The phone rang. It was Sarah. Hi, sis. How's it going? Fine. The kids miss Tom, but that's normal, Mary said wearily, sinking onto the sofa. Listen, my car broke down. I had to leave it at the repair shop. I'll pick it up tomorrow. Do you need a ride? No, thanks. The mechanic gave me a ride home. He was a very nice man. Something in Sarah's voice made Mary wary. What mechanic? Pierce Carter. He has a garage in the industrial area. He's very professional. Mary knew that name. Pierce Carter had recently gotten divorced, and it had been talked about at church. His ex-wife, Linda, attended their parish. Sarah, be careful, she said. What do you mean? Nothing in particular. He just got divorced. Men in that situation can be unpredictable. Sarah laughed. Mary, you're thinking too much. It's just a business relationship. He fixes my car, I pay him. It's that simple. After their conversation, Mary continued to think about it. Sarah had always been beautiful and attractive. Men had paid attention to her since she was a teenager. Unlike Mary, who had married her first serious boyfriend at 23 and had never felt desirable since. Late at night, when the children were asleep, Mary sat in the kitchen with a cup of coffee and thought about her life. 10 years ago, she had dreamed of a different future, perhaps her own small business, or at least a job in an office. But pregnancy, marriage, and reality had dragged her into this vicious circle. She looked at the family photo on the refrigerator. Tom was smiling at the camera, hugging her and the children tightly. It was taken last spring, but it seemed like an eternity ago. When was the last time Tom had been home for more than 2 days in a row? Mary closed her eyes and tried to imagine a different life. A life where someone cared about her the way she cared about everyone else. The next day, Sarah went to the auto repair shop to pick up her Honda. Pierce had finished the repairs early in the morning and had already checked the power steering twice. When Sarah appeared in the doorway, he felt a slight excitement he hadn't felt in a long time. Good morning, Pierce. I hope my car is okay? Sarah smiled, and the smile seemed sincere, not as perfunctory as most of his customers' smiles. Everything's fine. The pump has been replaced and the fluid topped up. Try turning the steering wheel. He handed her the keys, their fingers accidentally touching. Sarah got into the car and turned the steering wheel left and right several times. The unpleasant grinding noise was gone. Great. How much do I owe you? $280. I found the part cheaper than I expected. Sarah took out her wallet and counted the bills. Thank you for not overcharging me. Some mechanics take advantage of the fact that women don't know much about cars. That's not how I work, Pierce said, taking the money and writing a check. Besides, you have a serious job at the hospital. I respect people who help others. Don't you help? You can't get anywhere in this city without a car. Pierce thought about it. He had never looked at his job that way before. You're probably right. Listen, I know this might sound strange, but would you like to get a cup of coffee? As a way of saying thank you for your honest work and for giving me a ride yesterday. Pierce was taken aback for a moment. Since his divorce, he had avoided such offers. But there was something different about Sarah. I have an hour break at noon. There's a cafe on Hardy Street. Been there, done that? I know that place. See you at 1. After she left, Pierce couldn't concentrate on his work. Marcus was the first to notice. Boss, you seem distracted today. Is something wrong? Nothing much, just thinking. At 1 o'clock, Pierce arrived at the cafe and saw Sarah sitting at a table by the window. She had already ordered coffee and was reading something on her phone. When she looked up and waved at him, Pierce realized he was making a mistake, but he couldn't stop himself. "I hope you haven't been waiting long," he said, sitting down opposite her. "5 minutes. I ordered you an Americano. I hope I got it right." "You got it right." The next 40 minutes flew by. Sarah talked about her work at the hospital, how she chose medicine, and how she moved to Hattiesburg 5 years ago from a small town. Pierce told her about the garage, how he had inherited it from his father, and his plans to expand the business. "What about your family?" Sarah asked. "I'm sorry if that's a personal question. I was married. I got divorced 2 years ago. No children." "I'm sorry. Don't be. We just weren't right for each other." "Have you thought about starting over? Meeting someone new?" Pierce looked at her intently. "I have. But it's difficult. I don't want to repeat my mistakes." "I understand. I've never been married, but I've seen enough failed marriages around me." "What about your sister? You said she has a family?" "Mary's been married for 12 years, 2 kids. Her husband's a truck driver on the road a lot." Sarah paused for a moment. "To be honest, I don't think she's happy, but she never complains." When they parted, Pierce realized he wanted to see Sarah again. And judging by the look on her face, the feeling was mutual. That evening, the Wilson family gathered for dinner. Tom had returned from a flight that afternoon and had been home for 3 days, which was rare for their family. The children were happy to have their father home, but Mary noticed that he looked tired and distant. "How was your day?" Tom asked, mechanically cutting his meat. "The usual. Work, kids, home," Mary replied. "How about you?" "Fine. Back on the road tomorrow. Flight to Texas, a week there and back." Mary nodded. She was used to this kind of news. "Dad, can you stay a little longer?" Emma asked. "I can't, Princess. Work is work." Just then, Mary's phone rang. It was Sarah. "Hi, sis. How's it going? Is Tom home?" "Yes, we're having dinner. Do you want to talk to him?" "No, don't bother him. I just wanted to let you know I'll be home late tomorrow. I'm meeting a friend from the hospital." "Okay. See you on the weekend." After the call, Mary noticed something unusual in Sarah's voice, a lightness that had been missing for a long time. It was as if something good had happened in her life. Over the next 2 weeks, Sarah and Pierce saw each other more and more often. At first, it was casual encounters at a cafe or over lunch. Then Sarah started coming into the garage under various pretexts. A strange noise in the engine, the need to check the tire pressure. "Your car is in great shape, Sarah," Pierce said during one of his inspections. "I don't understand where these problems are coming from. Maybe I'm just panicking. I'm not very good with cars." "Or maybe you like coming here?" Pierce ventured. Sarah smiled. "Maybe." That evening, they had dinner together for the first time at a small restaurant on the outskirts of town. Sarah chose a place far from the center, where no one was likely to know them. "Why did you choose this place?" Pierce asked. "I like the quiet. Besides, people in small towns love to gossip. And what could they say about us? That a divorced man is having dinner with an unmarried woman? Nothing special, but the family might misunderstand." "Your sister?" "Mary is very cautious. She always worries about me." After dinner, Pierce walked Sarah to her car. When they said goodbye, there was a pause between them, full of unspoken tension. "Sarah, I have to tell you, I enjoy spending time with you." "Me too, Pierce. But I don't want to rush things. After the divorce?" "I understand. We can take our time." When Sarah got home, it was already 10 o'clock. Her phone showed 3 missed calls from Mary. Sarah called back. "Where were you?" "I was worried." Mary's voice sounded alarmed. "Sorry, I was meeting with a colleague from work. We were discussing work issues." "Until 10 o'clock at night?" We had dinner and talked for a long time. What's wrong, Mary? You sound strange. Nothing's wrong. It's just that Tom is leaving tomorrow, the kids are upset, and you weren't home. You usually call if you're going to be late. I'm sorry. I'll call next time. After the conversation, Mary continued to feel uneasy. Something about Sarah's explanation sounded unnatural. And besides, what kind of work issues require dinner at a restaurant? The next day, Tom left on another flight. The goodbye was short and formal, a kiss on the cheek, hugs with the children, and a promise to call in a couple of days. "Mom, why does Dad always leave?" Jacob asked when Tom's truck disappeared around the corner. "Because he works so we can live in this house and buy food," Mary explained, although she sometimes asked herself the same question. That evening, Mary decided to visit Sarah. The sisters usually saw each other on weekends, but Mary wanted to talk. The house was empty. Sarah's car was in the driveway, but no one answered the doorbell. Mary tried calling her cell phone. After a few rings, Sarah answered. "Hi, Mary. What's wrong?" "I'm at your house. Where are you?" Pause. "I'm walking in the park. I needed some fresh air after work." "At 10 o'clock at night?" "Mary, what's going on? Are you following me?" "No, of course not. I just wanted to talk. Tom's gone. The kids are in bed. I thought I'd drop by." "I'll be home soon. Can we talk tomorrow?" "Okay, bye." Mary got into her car and drove slowly home. She had never caught Sarah lying before. What made her lie now? At the same time, Sarah stood in the parking lot outside Pierce's house, holding her phone with trembling hands. They had just kissed for the first time, standing by his car after a walk through the quiet neighborhood. It was a slow, gentle kiss, full of promise and possibility. "Are you okay?" Pierce asked, seeing her state. "My sister. She's at my house. She's asking where I am." "Maybe you should tell her the truth?" "Not yet. Mary will worry. She thinks all men want one thing." "What do I want?" Pierce gently touched her hand. "I hope it's more than just that." "Much more, Sarah." The next evening, the sisters met at Mary's house. Sarah brought pizza and ice cream for the children, as she usually did on Fridays when Tom was away. "You look good," Mary remarked as she set the table. "Rested." "Thanks. Work hasn't been so stressful lately." "Or is it something else?" Sarah looked up from her plate. "What do you mean?" "I don't know. You're just different. Happier." "Is that bad?" "No, of course not. It's just unusual. You're usually complaining about work, about not meeting anyone. And now you're glowing." Sarah felt herself blushing. "Maybe I'm just in a good mood. Or you've met someone." There was an awkward pause. The children were playing in the living room, their laughter drifting in from the next room. "Mary, even if that were true, wouldn't that be a good thing? You always said you wanted me to find someone." "Yes, but I want you to be careful. Not all men are honest about their intentions." "Like Tom?" The question came out sharper than Sarah had intended. Mary froze with a fork in her hand. "What do you mean by that?" "Nothing in particular. He's always traveling. Don't you think that's convenient for him?" "He works to support his family." "Of course. But aren't there jobs in the city? Couldn't he find something that would allow him to be home every evening?" Mary put down her fork. "Sarah, I don't understand what you're getting at. I just think you deserve a man who wants to be with you, and you deserve a man who doesn't use you." The sisters stared at each other across the table. There was a tension in the air that had never been there before. "I think I should go," Sarah said, getting up from the table. "Sarah, wait." "No, it's okay. I just have a lot to do tomorrow." After she left, Mary sat in the kitchen, trying to understand what had just happened. Sarah had never criticized Tom or their marriage before. Where did this sudden aggression come from? Late that night, lying in her empty bed, Mary thought about how her life had turned into a series of identical days. Work, children, home, rare weekends with a husband who seemed more and more like a stranger. And Sarah was glowing with a happiness that Mary hadn't felt in years. Emma was crying behind the wall. The girl missed her father again. Mary got up and went to comfort her daughter, wondering when she herself had stopped missing Tom when he was away. Saturday began as a normal day off for Mary. The children ate breakfast in front of the TV while she made a shopping list for the week. Tom had called from Dallas the night before. His flight had been delayed by 3 days. Emma cried again after talking to her father, and Jacob withdrew into himself and played video games all evening. "Mom, can we go to the mall?" Emma asked, finishing her cereal. "We don't have money for toys, sweetie." "I don't want toys, I just want to go out. It's boring at home." Mary looked at her daughter. The girl was right. The house was dreary, especially with the sun shining outside. "Okay, but we need to stop at the grocery store first." An hour later, they were driving down Hardy Street toward the Turtle Creek Mall. Mary planned to quickly buy groceries, then let the kids spend an hour shopping before heading home. At the traffic light before the turn to the mall, Mary saw a familiar silver Honda in the parking lot of the Olive Garden restaurant. Her heart skipped a beat. It was Sarah's car. What was she doing here on a Saturday afternoon? "Mom, green light," Jacob said. Mary drove on, but she couldn't get the image out of her head. Sarah had said she was going to spend the weekend at home, cleaning and doing laundry. Why would she lie about going to a restaurant? At the supermarket, Mary absent-mindedly put items in her cart, thinking about her sister. Over the past month, Sarah had become a different person, mysterious, elusive. Their relationship, which had always been close and trusting, had turned into a series of cautious conversations and half-truths. "Mom, you got 3 cartons of milk," Emma pointed out. Mary looked in the cart and saw the extra purchases. She couldn't concentrate. After the grocery store, they drove to the mall. Parking near the main entrance, Mary saw Sarah's Honda again, now in the mall parking lot. So her sister had moved here after lunch. "Kids, let's go quickly. We only have an hour." Inside the mall, it was crowded, as usual on Saturdays. Families with children, teenagers, elderly couples, the usual weekend scene in Hattiesburg. Mary took the children to toy and clothing stores, allowing them to simply look at things they couldn't afford. Near the fountain in the center of the mall, Emma spotted an ice cream stand. "Mom, can I have some ice cream, please?" Mary counted the change in her purse. $5 for 2 cones was a luxury, but the children so rarely asked for anything special. "Okay, but only small ones." Standing in line for ice cream, Mary happened to glance over at the Barnes & Noble bookstore, and she froze. Sarah was standing at the window with a tall, dark-haired man. They were very close to each other. The man was showing her something in a book, and Sarah was laughing, her hand on his shoulder. It was an intimate gesture that left no doubt about the nature of their relationship. Mary recognized the man, Pierce Carter, the same mechanic who had repaired Sarah's car a month ago. "Mom, are you ordering ice cream?" the salesman asked a second time. Mary mechanically ordered cones for the children, her eyes fixed on the couple at the bookstore. Sarah was wearing a new dress that Mary had never seen before, dark blue, figure-hugging. She looked beautiful and happy. Pierce put his arm around Sarah's waist and kissed her on the temple. It was a tender, familiar gesture from a man who had earned that kind of intimacy. Mary felt her legs go weak. Everything fell into place. Sarah's mysterious absences, her evasive answers to questions, her unusual happiness. She was having an affair, and she was hiding it. "Mom, what's wrong?" Jacob tugged at her sleeve. "Nothing. Let's go home." "What about shopping?" "Let's go home, now." The children sensed the change in her mood and silently followed her to the exit. Mary led them through the entire mall, trying not to look at the bookstore, but out of the corner of her eye, she could see that Sarah and Pierce were still there. Mary sat in the car for several minutes, gripping the steering wheel tightly. The children were silent in the back seat, sensing her tension. "Mommy, are you crying?" Emma asked quietly. Mary touched her cheek and found tears. "No, sweetie, I'm just tired." The drive home seemed endless. Mary tried to understand what she was feeling. Anger, disappointment, betrayal, all of the above. But what struck her most was another feeling: envy. Looking at Sarah's happy face, at how gently Pierce touched her, Mary realized that she couldn't remember the last time she had felt wanted. When was the last time Tom had looked at her the way Pierce looked at Sarah? At home, the children turned on the TV, and Mary locked herself in her bedroom and called Sarah. "Hi, sis." Sarah's voice sounded especially cheerful. "Where are you?" "At home." "Why?" "Sarah, don't lie to me. I saw you at the mall." Pause. A long, heavy pause. "Mary, with Pierce Carter, the mechanic who fixed your car." "I can explain." "Explain." "Not over the phone. Come over." "The kids are with me." "Bring them. We'll talk." Half an hour later, Mary stood at Sarah's doorstep. The children stayed in the car with their tablets and headphones. Sarah opened the door, and Mary saw that her sister was still wearing the same blue dress. Only now, her face expressed anxiety instead of happiness. "Come in." Sarah stepped aside. In the living room, they sat across from each other like rivals before a fight. "How long?" Mary asked. "A month, since he fixed my car." "And you lied to me all this time?" "I didn't lie. I just didn't tell you the whole truth." "That's the same thing, Sarah. We've always told each other everything." "Not everything," Sarah said quietly. "What do you mean?" "You never told me you were unhappy in your marriage, but I've seen it for years." Mary felt her cheeks burn with anger. "My marriage has nothing to do with your affair with a married man. He's not married. He's been divorced for 2 years. That doesn't change anything. You're seeing him behind my back, lying to your family." "Family? What family, Mary? You? You're the only one who asks about my personal life. Tom is away on business. The kids are busy with their own lives." "I'm your sister. I have a right to know what's going on in your life." "And I have a right to a personal life." Sarah stood up from the couch. "I'm 29 years old, Mary. I'm a grown woman. I can date whoever I want." "Of course you can. But why hide it? If it's serious, if you love him?" "What if I do?" "Then why the secrets?" Sarah walked over to the window and stood there silently for a long time, staring out at the street. "Because I knew you would react exactly like this." "How exactly?" "Judging me, criticizing me, warning me about the dangers." Sarah turned to her sister. "You never rejoice for me, Mary. Never." "That's not true." "It's true. When I got promoted at the hospital, you said I'd have more responsibility. When I bought a car, you said a loan was risky. When I got a new hairstyle, you said short hair didn't suit me." Mary opened her mouth to argue, but realized Sarah was right. She really did always find something to criticize. "I'm just looking out for you. Or you're jealous of me." The words hung in the air like a slap. Mary felt something break inside her. "What did you say?" "You're jealous of me, Mary. My freedom, my job, the fact that I can make choices in my life. I have a family, children, responsibilities. You have a husband who comes home once a week, and children who can see that their mother is unhappy." "Don't you dare talk about my children!" "What am I saying that's wrong? Emma cries all the time when Tom leaves. Jacob is withdrawn and aggressive. They can feel the atmosphere in the house." Mary stood up, her hands shaking with anger. "My family is none of your business." "Then my relationship is none of your business." "Your relationship is my business because you're my sister, and this Pierce, what's wrong with him?" "He's using you, Sarah. He's a middle-aged divorced man looking for fun. Do you think he's serious about you?" "How do you know? You don't even know him." "I know men like that. After a divorce, they don't want new commitments. All they want is..." "What? Tell me what they want." "Sex with no strings attached." Sarah laughed, but it sounded bitter. You know what, Mary? Maybe that's what I need. Maybe I want to feel wanted. Maybe I want a man to look at me like I'm the most beautiful woman in the world. And then what? When he dumps you? What if he doesn't? What if we get married? What if we have children? What if I'm happy? Mary felt a sharp pang in her chest. Happiness. When was the last time she had been happy? Sarah, you're living in a fantasy world. You live in fear. Fear of change, fear of risk, fear that someone might be happier than you. That's not true. Then explain to me why you're so angry. If you're happy in your marriage, if you like your life, why do you care so much about my relationship? Mary couldn't answer. Because Sarah was right. She wasn't angry that her sister was dating a divorced man. She was angry that Sarah looked happy, that she had a secret that made her eyes sparkle, that someone wanted her and cared about her. I want you to stop this, Mary said quietly. What? Your relationship with this man, I want you to end it. Sarah looked at her sister in astonishment. You can't be serious. I am serious. Stop seeing him. And if I refuse, then I don't know what I'll say to Tom, or to the children, or to the people at church. Are you threatening me? I'm asking you to think about the family. What family, Mary? A family where the husband is away most of the time? A family where the mother is so unhappy that she's willing to destroy her only sister's happiness? Mary walked to the door. I'll give you time to think about it. I don't need time, Sarah said. I'm not going to break up with Pierce. I love him, and he loves me. For the first time in my life, I know what it's like to be loved. Mary paused in the doorway. What about your family? What about my family? Are you going to marry someone else, have other children, start a new life? No. Then stop asking me to sacrifice myself for your problems. Mary closed the door behind her and walked slowly to her car. The children looked up from their tablets. Mommy, why are you crying? Emma asked. I'm not crying, sweetie. I'm just upset. Because of Aunt Sarah? Mary looked at her sister's house in the rearview mirror. Yes, because of Aunt Sarah. On the way home, Mary thought about what had happened. Sarah was right about a lot of things. She was indeed jealous. Jealous of her sister's freedom, her ability to choose, her right to make mistakes and to be happy. But most of all, Mary realized that she had lost more than just her sister. She had lost hope. Hope that someone could change her life, save her from this endless cycle of work, children, and loneliness in her marriage. Sarah had chosen happiness. What had Mary chosen? Security? Stability? Sacrifice? At home, she made dinner for the children and sat down at the table, but she couldn't eat. Sarah's words echoed in her head. For the first time in my life, I know what it's like to be loved. Mary tried to remember the last time she had felt loved. Tom said, I love you, before he left. But they were automatic words, devoid of passion. The children loved her, but it was a different kind of love. Demanding, dependent. And when was the last time a man had looked at her the way Pierce had looked at Sarah in the mall? Late that night, after the children were asleep, Mary sat in the kitchen with a cup of cold coffee and realized that something had been irrevocably broken. Not just her relationship with Sarah, something inside her. Sarah had chosen love, despite the risks. Mary had chosen security and was now paying for it with loneliness and envy. The clock showed 11 o'clock. Tom was supposed to call, but he hadn't. Probably forgot, or didn't think it was necessary. Mary closed her eyes and imagined a different life. A life where someone was waiting for her after work, where someone bought her dresses and took her to restaurants, where someone kissed her not out of obligation, but out of desire. Monday, October 23rd, began like any other workday for Pierce. He opened the garage at 7 in the morning, as usual, and immediately began diagnosing an old Chevrolet that had been brought in over the weekend. Marcus was supposed to arrive at 8. They had several difficult repairs scheduled for the week. At 7:30, Sarah called. "Good morning." Her voice sounded tired. "Morning. Didn't get much sleep." "I slept badly. I had a tough shift at the hospital yesterday, plus problems with my sister." Pierce knew about Sarah's conflict with Mary. Sarah had told him about Saturday's confrontation, but hadn't gone into details. "Do you want to talk about it?" "Not on the phone. Maybe we can see each other tonight?" "Sure. Come to the garage after work." "Okay. I love you, Pierce." "I love you too." After the call, Pierce continued working with a slight feeling of unease. Sarah rarely sounded so depressed. Family problems always hit her hard, especially conflicts with Mary. Marcus arrived on time, and they immersed themselves in their work. They had 3 cars to diagnose and a complete brake system replacement on a minibus. There was enough work to keep them busy until evening. "Boss, what's going on with that nurse?" Marcus asked during their lunch break. "She hasn't been back." "Her car's fine," Pierce replied, not wanting to discuss his personal life. "I see, she's cute. You two look good together." Pierce looked up from his sandwich. "How do you know?" "I saw you at the cafe last week. I didn't want to bother you. I was just passing by." Pierce nodded. It was hard to keep anything secret for long in a small town. The day passed in its usual rhythm. At 6 in the evening, Marcus went home, and Pierce stayed to finish working on the minivan. Sarah was supposed to arrive around 8 after her shift ended. At 7:30, Pierce was washing his hands in a small sink in the corner of the garage when he heard a car pull into the parking lot. It was too early for Sarah. Maybe it was a customer with an emergency repair. He dried his hands and walked over to the large garage door. It was getting dark quickly outside. The October days were getting shorter. "We're closed!" he shouted toward the parking lot. There was no answer. Pierce turned on the outside light and went outside. The parking lot was empty. Strange. He had definitely heard a car. Returning to the garage, Pierce continued working on the minivan. He just needed to replace the last brake cylinder, and the job would be done. At 8:15, a car did pull into the parking lot. This time, Pierce recognized the sound of Sarah's Honda. He smiled and went to meet her. "Hi, beautiful," he said, hugging Sarah at the garage entrance. "Hi. Sorry I'm late. I was held up at the hospital." Sarah looked tired. She had dark circles under her eyes, and her usual smile seemed forced. "Want some coffee? I have a thermos." "Thanks, but I'm not staying long. I just wanted to see you." They went into the garage. Pierce turned off the radio so they could talk quietly. "What's going on with your sister?" he asked, sitting down on the edge of the workbench. "She's demanding that I end our relationship," Sarah said, slumping wearily into a chair. "She's threatening to tell everyone at church about our affair." "And what did you say?" "That I'm not going to leave you. That for the first time in my life, I'm happy." Pierce walked over to her and took her hands. "Sarah, if this is causing problems in your family..." "No." She squeezed his hands tightly. "I won't let her destroy what we have. Mary is unhappy in her marriage and can't accept that I can be happy. Maybe you should give her some time. People get used to things. You don't know my sister. She doesn't forgive or forget." Pierce hugged Sarah, feeling the tension slowly leave her body. "You know what?" he said. "Let's go to my place. I'll make dinner, we'll watch a movie, and we'll forget about all our problems." "That's a good idea." Sarah smiled sincerely for the first time that evening. "Give me 5 minutes to finish with this minibus and we'll go." Sarah nodded and took out her phone to check her messages. Pierce went back to work, whistling a tune. In a few minutes he would be done, and they would spend a quiet evening together. At 8:30, Sarah kissed him on the cheek. "Pierce, I've changed my mind. I'd better go home, take a bath, and go to bed early. I have a double shift tomorrow." "Are you sure?" "I'm almost done." "I'm sure. See you tomorrow night?" "Of course." After she left, Pierce finished repairing the minibus and began putting away his tools. The garage was filled with the usual working silence, broken only by the sounds of his movements. At 9:20, he heard the side door of the garage open. "Sarah, are you back?" he called without turning around. There was no answer. Pierce put down his wrench and turned around. A figure stood in the doorway with a hunting rifle. In the dim light of the garage, Pierce couldn't make out the face, but he instinctively knew he was in danger. "Hey, what are you doing?" A shot rang out deafeningly in the confined space of the garage. Pierce felt a blow to his chest as if he had been hit with a hammer. He fell backward, hitting his head on the concrete floor. The last thing he saw were boots approaching him. The last thing he heard was the sound of a gun falling. Then there was silence. On Tuesday morning, Marcus arrived at work at his usual time, 8 o'clock. He was surprised to see that the garage door was closed. Pierce usually opened them at 7. Marcus parked and walked to the side door. The door was unlocked, which was also strange. Pierce always locked the garage carefully at night. "Boss, are you here?" Marcus called out as he entered. There was no answer. Only one light was on in the garage, above the workbench. The rest were off. Marcus took a few steps and froze. Pierce was lying on the floor in a pool of dried blood. A hunting rifle lay next to the body. "Oh my God," Marcus whispered and grabbed his phone. Detective Jack Morgan arrived at the crime scene at 9 in the morning. It was his first murder in 2 years. Usually, cases in Hattiesburg were limited to theft, domestic violence, and minor drug offenses. "What do we have?" he asked Sergeant Davis, who was the first to arrive on the scene. Pierce Carter, 42 years old, garage owner, found dead by an employee at 8 in the morning, shot in the chest with a hunting rifle. Morgan put on gloves and carefully examined the crime scene. The body was lying near a workbench, the gun 3 feet away. No signs of a struggle. One shell casing on the floor. "Looks like suicide," Davis remarked. "I don't think so." Morgan crouched down next to the gun, too far from the body, and the angle of the shot is wrong for suicide. "So it's murder." "Exactly. Where's the worker who found the body?" "In the patrol car. The guy's in shock." Morgan stepped outside and approached Marcus, who was sitting in the back seat of the police car, pale and trembling. "Marcus, right? I'm Detective Morgan. I need to ask you a few questions." "I already told the police officer everything." "I know, but I need details. What time do you usually come to work?" "At 8, sometimes a little earlier." "And Pierce?" "Usually at 7. He always came in before me." "When was the last time you saw him alive?" "Yesterday at 6 in the evening. I went home, and he stayed behind to finish up the van." "Did he often stay after work?" "Sometimes, when there were a lot of orders." "Did he have any enemies? Any problems with anyone?" Marcus thought for a moment. "I don't know of any enemies. He got divorced recently, but that was 2 years ago. It was amicable, as far as I know." "Any romantic relationships? Was he seeing anyone?" "Yes, a nurse from the hospital. Sarah, I don't remember her last name." "How long were they together?" "A month or 2. She was pretty. They were good together." Morgan jotted down the information in his notebook. "Anything else unusual lately?" "No, nothing." Same old, same old. After talking to Marcus, Morgan returned to the garage, where forensic technicians were photographing the crime scene. "Find any fingerprints on the gun," he told the technician, "and check for any other shell casings." "We're already on it. It's an old hunting rifle, 12 gauge. Morgan looked around the office area of the garage. Everything was in order. No signs of a robbery or search. The cash register was untouched. The tools were in place. "This isn't a robbery," he told Sergeant Davis. "The killer knew the victim." "Family drama?" "Possibly. We need to talk to his girlfriend." Sarah Wilson was working the day shift at the hospital when the head nurse approached her. "Sarah, the police are here to see you." Her heart skipped a beat. "The police?" "A detective wants to talk to you. He's waiting in the staff room." Sarah walked slowly down the hallway, wondering what could have happened. Maybe an accident involving Mary? Or something with the children? In the staff room, a middle-aged man in a suit was waiting for her. Miss Wilson? Detective Morgan, Hattiesburg Police. Please, take a seat. What happened? Sarah sat down on the edge of the chair. I'm sorry to tell you that Pierce Carter is dead. He was murdered last night in his garage. The world spun around Sarah. She grabbed the edge of the table to keep from falling. That's impossible. I saw him last night. He was fine. What time did you see him? Around 8. I went to his garage after work. How long were you there? 20 minutes. Maybe half an hour. And what time did you leave? 8:30. Maybe a little later. Morgan wrote down every word. Miss Wilson, how long did you know Mr. Carter? 2 months. Since September. Was it a romantic relationship? Sarah nodded, unable to speak. Did he have any enemies? Anyone who might have wanted to harm him? No, no one. Pierce was a good man, honest, kind. And your family, how did they feel about your relationship? Sarah froze. Why are you asking? Just gathering information. My sister didn't approve of our relationship. How strongly did she disapprove? We had a fight over the weekend. She demanded that I stop seeing Pierce. Morgan looked up from his notebook. And what did you say? That I wasn't going to. What's her name? Mary Wilson. But she couldn't. It's impossible. Where does she work? At Southern Foods on Hardy Street. Does your sister have access to a gun? Sarah felt the room begin to spin. Her husband has a hunting rifle, but Mary never. Where's her husband? On the road. He's a truck driver left on Sunday. Morgan closed his notebook. Miss Wilson, I'll need a full statement, and we'll need to talk to your sister. Detective, you don't think Mary, she's not capable of murder? I don't think anything in particular, Miss Wilson. I'm just gathering facts. After the detective left, Sarah sat in the empty room, trying to comprehend what had happened. Pierce was dead, murdered, and the police suspected Mary. She took out her phone and dialed her sister's number. It rang, but no one answered. Tuesday, October 24th, was the day Mary Wilson's life finally fell apart. She was at work at Southern Foods supermarket, mechanically scanning customers' groceries, when 2 men in plain clothes approached her register. Mary Wilson? Asked a tall, middle-aged man. Yes, that's me. Who are you? Detective Morgan, Hattiesburg Police Department. This is Detective Rodriguez. We need to talk to you. Mary's heart began to race. What's wrong? Is something wrong with the children? No, your children are fine. This is about something else. Manager Roger approached the cash register. Mary, what's going on? I need to step out, she said in a trembling voice. They walked into a small staff room behind the store. Morgan took out his notebook. Miss Wilson, where were you last night between 8 and 10 o'clock? At home, with the kids. What happened? Pierce Carter was murdered last night. Did you know him? Mary felt the blood drain from her face. I've heard the name. I think he fixed my sister's car. Your sister was dating Mr. Carter. She said you didn't approve of their relationship. I was just worried about her. Worried enough to demand that she end the relationship? Yes, we had a fight over the weekend. But that doesn't mean... Does your husband own a hunting rifle? Pause. A long, heavy pause. Yes, but Tom's been away since Sunday. Are you comfortable with a gun? Tom taught me how to shoot a few years ago, for self-defense. Morgan wrote something down in his notebook. Miss Wilson, we're going to need to search your home. Do you have any objections? What if we do? Then we'll get a warrant, but that will take time, and we may not have time. Mary looked at the detectives, realizing she was trapped. All right, but the children are at school, and I don't want to scare them. An hour later, the police were searching the Wilson home. In Tom's bedroom closet, they found an empty space where a hunting rifle was usually kept. Where's the gun? Morgan asked. I don't know. Tom always locks it up here. When was the last time you saw it? I don't remember. I rarely look in his closet. Detective Rodriguez came out of the garage. "Jack, there are traces of dirt and oil here, fresh, and the smell of gunpowder." Morgan looked closely at Mary. "Miss Wilson, I need to ask you to come with us to the station to make a statement." "Am I under arrest?" "Not yet, but we would like to record your statement officially." At the station, Mary had been sitting in the interrogation room for 2 hours. Morgan asked the same questions in different ways, trying to find contradictions in her story. "Mary, we know you were at Mr. Carter's garage last night. We found your shoe prints near the side door." "That's impossible. I've never been there." "And fibers from your jacket on the door handle." Mary covered her face with her hands. "I want a lawyer." "Of course, that's your right. But first, let me tell you what we know." Morgan opened the case file. "We know that you strongly disapproved of your sister's relationship with Pierce Carter. We know that you had an argument with her over the weekend and demanded that she end the relationship. We know that your husband has a hunting rifle that is now missing. We know that you know how to shoot, and we know that you were in the garage last night." "I didn't kill him," Mary whispered. "Then explain how your fingerprints ended up at the crime scene." Mary was silent for a long time. Finally, she looked up at the detective. "I wanted to talk to him, to ask him to leave Sarah alone." "And what happened?" "I arrived at the garage around 9. Sarah had already left. Pierce was working alone." "Go on." "I went in through the side door. I told him who I was and why I was there." "How did he react?" "He was polite, but said it was between him and Sarah, that I had no right to interfere." "And then you shot him?" "No!" Mary stood up abruptly. "I didn't shoot him." "Then who did?" "I don't know. I left after the conversation. He was alive when I left." Morgan didn't believe her. Too much evidence pointed to Mary. On Wednesday morning, he received the ballistics report. The bullet extracted from Pierce's body had been fired from a 12-gauge Remington 870 shotgun, the same model registered to Tom Wilson. The shotgun was found on Wednesday afternoon in Pine Lake, 15 minutes' drive from the Wilson home. The fingerprints had been wiped off, but the serial number confirmed that it was Tom's gun. "We have enough to make an arrest," Morgan told his partner. They arrested Mary at home as she was picking up her children from school. Jacob and Emma watched as their mother was handcuffed and put into a police car. "Mommy," Emma cried, but a neighbor was already taking the children to her home. Mary spent the longest night of her life in a holding cell. In the morning, she was visited by a court-appointed lawyer, a young man named Daniel Crawford. "Miss Wilson, the evidence against you is very serious. The motive, the murder weapon, your presence at the scene of the crime." "I didn't kill him," Mary said wearily. "Then explain to me what happened, the whole truth." Mary was silent for a long time, staring at the wall of the cell. "I was jealous of Sarah," she said finally. "All my life, she was beautiful, free, happy, and I was stuck in a loveless marriage with a job I hated, with children who constantly asked why their father was never home. That's not a motive for murder. When I saw them together at the mall, I realized I would never be as happy as she was, that my life was an endless series of identical days." "Mary, what happened in the garage?" "I went there to talk to Pierce. I wanted to explain to him that Sarah wasn't right for a serious relationship, that she was too frivolous. And he said he loved her, that they were thinking about getting married." Mary covered her face with her hands and cried. "And then I knew I had lost her forever, that she would have everything I never had, a loving husband who wants to be with her, a house full of laughter, a future." Mary. "I brought the gun to scare him, to make him promise to leave Sarah alone. But when he said he loved her, I don't remember exactly what happened next. I only remember a loud noise and him falling." The lawyer wrote down every word. "Was it premeditated murder?" "I don't know. I didn't plan to kill him, I just wanted the pain to stop." Mary Wilson's trial began in January of the following year. The trial lasted 3 weeks, and attracted the attention of the entire town. Sarah testified against her sister, though her voice trembled as she recounted their last conversation. Tom returned from his flight to pick up the children but refused to visit his wife in prison. "I don't know this woman," he told reporters. "The Mary I knew couldn't kill a person." The defense tried to prove that it was a crime of passion, but the prosecutor presented compelling evidence of premeditation. Mary brought the gun, she knew where to find Pierce, and she chose a time when Sarah was away. In her closing statement, Mary stood up and addressed the court. "I'm not looking for excuses for what I did. Pierce Carter was a good man who didn't deserve to die. His only fault was that he loved my sister." She looked at Sarah, who was sitting in the front row. "Sarah, I'm sorry. Not for what I did. That's unforgivable. I'm sorry for never being happy for your happiness, for letting my jealousy and bitterness kill the man you loved." The sentence was harsh, 25 years in prison with no possibility of parole. After the sentence was handed down, Sarah left the courtroom and sat down on a bench in front of the building. Detective Morgan approached her. "How are you, Miss Wilson?" "I don't know," she replied honestly. "I've lost my sister and the man I loved. I don't know how to go on. Time heals. Maybe. But I'll never understand how hatred for your own life can turn into murder." Morgan didn't know what to say. In his 20 years on the force, he had seen many family tragedies, but this one struck him particularly deeply. A year later, Tom divorced Mary and moved with the children to another state. Sarah requested a transfer to Jackson Hospital and left Hattiesburg. Carter's garage was sold. The new owner demolished the old building and built a car wash. The Wilson family's story was a reminder of how envy and unfulfilled dreams can turn into tragedy, destroying the lives of many people.